Inside of the concentration camps of the Second World War, there were many different terrifying and barbaric torture methods used upon men and women inside of the camp. There were horrific SS guards who even created their own barbaric methods to inflict pain and suffering, such as Wilhelm Boger, who created a swing-style device which was named after him. This saw a prisoner hanged in the air, suspended high up, almost like a pinata, and they were swung different sides whilst SS guards battered them with weapons. But some of the toughest camps utilised tried and tested medieval torture methods, and one that they looked towards was the oubliette, a small, cramped dungeon found inside of castles where people were left to rot and were forgotten. But inside of different concentration camps there were cells like this, known as standing cells, and victims were locked inside of these tiny rooms where they could not sit down or even crouch for days on end. Now, standing cells as a torture method had been around for many years before the Nazis, and they were in effect tiny small rooms which had no windows and were so tight that people could not move. Inside of Nazi Germany, when Hitler took control and commanded as the dictator, he opened different concentration camps across the nation where his political opponents found themselves locked up inside of. There was one camp known as Oranienburg, which was one of the earliest sites, and in 1933 the commandant of the camp had 2 tiny standing cells built inside of the basement of a torture block. Those prisoners who were said to have been possible rule breakers were locked inside of these rooms, and it was so small that someone could only stand up. And one prisoner, a man named Newman, was allegedly locked in the cells for 192 hours, 8 days, without any respite. There was also coffin-style cupboards used here to lock prisoners inside of, but the earliest concentration camp that opened was Dachau, and this became known for being a brutal site of torture. The camp became extremely overcrowded as the Second World War rolled on, and the standing cells here were like chimneys, and they were 75 centimetres by 80 centimetres wide. They were stone chambers, and there was at the top a small hatch for air to come in and out, and a narrow door with an iron bar at the bottom where prisoners got in and out. It was harrowing being locked inside of these, and one prisoner claimed about his experience in the standing cells that it was a terrible state, as I thought that it was over for me. Everything was so callous and distant for me. I couldn't lie down, I couldn't crouch. The best thing was to stand 6 days and 6 nights long. You touch the walls on both sides with your elbows. Your back touches the wall behind you, your knees the wall in front of you. This is no punishment or pre-trial detention. It is torture. Straightforward Middle Ages torture. I had bloodshot eyes, numb from bad air. I was just waiting for the end. Another prisoner claimed also that during the ordeal within the Dachau standing cells that an inmate was given a small piece of bread every 3 days, and then on the 4th day the prisoner was taken out to be given a normal meal, and they were allowed to sleep on a wooden bed before they were then sent back in the standing cells for 3 more days. This kept repeating, and prisoners were completely broken by their ordeals. One prisoner, a Czech man, it was claimed, spent 8 days solid inside the cells without any break, and the prisoners had to go to the toilet where they stood, and this caused further injuries and problems. There were standing cells also found inside of Auschwitz, and there were specifically 4 of them built inside of the basement of Block 11, the torture centre. Prisoners had roughly 84 centimetres square in these rooms, and it was incredibly crammed. There was a tiny hole for air, meaning prisoners often became dizzy and ill, and prisoners were locked in the cell in Auschwitz for usually 10 days at a time. And it was so brutal that one former inmate was so desperate that he ate his shoes within the camp. When the brutal commandant of the camp, Rudolf Höss, left Auschwitz, the standing cells were quickly taken out by the new commandant, and he saw them as unnecessary. Standing cells were a terrifying part of the concentration camp system, and they were a torture method which was straight out of the medieval period, but was applied in the 1940s upon many people who suffered under the Nazi regime. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe. And again, thank you so much for watching.